Alrighty, good evening, everyone. Welcome, everyone, and over to you, Chair Harrington.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Tuesday evening, January 27th, 2026 Board of Commissioners meeting. Clerk Moss, could you do us the formal honors, please?
Certainly, Chair Harrington. The Washington County Board of Commissioners also meeting as the Board of Directors for Clean Water Services and all other county service districts. This meeting is regular session, January 27th, 2026. Commissioner Treese.
Here.
Commissioner Snyder.
Here.
Commissioner Fye.
Present.
Vice Chair Willie.
Here.
Chair Harrington.
Here. Would everyone please stand and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everyone. And now we'll enter our first public comment period for this evening. This is an opportunity for members of our community to come and share their thoughts with the board on any topic they would like for up to 2 minutes an individual, 10 minutes total. Clerk Moss, who do we have who wishes to do so?
The first two we have is Ann Smith and Ruth Harshfield.
Good evening. Ms. Smith, you're on first.
Okay, thank you. Hello, I'm Ann Smith. I've been a resident of Washington County for most of my life. When I was in college studying history, sometimes I couldn't actually believe the colonists pulled it off, became independent from the mighty British Empire. How did they do it? They began by talking to their neighbors, sharing stories of indignations, injustices. When their grievances accumulated, they took them to their local councils. Resolutions were passed in multiple places, and people began to stand up. The more people stood up, the more people realized courage is contagious, and after bitter battles and much bloodshed, our country was born. Foundational was the rule of law. You might say, oh, but we still have the rule of law in this country. You would be wrong. During the last year, the guardrails, already weakened during Trump 1, have almost all given way to a non-functioning government where Congress has mostly given up its powers, certainly of the purse, and regards war powers, and the Supreme Court seems to be in this president's pocket as well, granting immunity to a president who now stands above the law. I am a student of history, and this does not end well. I don't have enough time today to recount all the ways our country is unrecognizable from itself 1 short year ago, the myriad ways since then the rule of law has been subrogated, broken, ignored. We are once again being ruled by a mad king, and we cannot look away, and we cannot hope it away. We cannot kick this down the road. We are not overreacting. So what action is appropriate for our community? We have gathered, shared grievances of the abuse of power and lawlessness we see all around us. We also appeal to our local elective body, you fine people, and raise the alarm. We want democracy. We want to live under the rule of law. We hope you debate and adopt our resolution, because what is at stake is our very existence as a democracy. Thank you for listening.
Ms. Harshfield.
Good evening, Chair Harrington and Commissioners. My name is Ruth Harshfield. I'm a proud resident of Tigard in Washington County. As past chair of the Tigard Transportation Advisory Committee, I learned a great deal about the city budget, grants, funding for local transportation projects, and the impact of delays in receiving funding on the cost of those projects. My experience was prior to the current Trump administration, and I know that this has all become more difficult. I'm now active with the concerned citizens of Washington County, working to raise my voice in support of the rule of law and against the violations of the rule of law by the federal government. Obeying in advance and being complacent has proven not to be successful in working with this administration. Recently, we're seeing that standing up to a bully is more effective. The CCOWC resolution in support of the rule of law includes actions that directly impact Washington County, ICE activities that have gone against the law that no person within the United States may be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law. freezes on the spending of congressionally appropriated and obligated funds without regard to Congress's authority to control spending, jeopardizing an estimated $696 million earmarked for Oregon and Washington County, the dismantling of the Department of Education without a congressional approval. I have no doubt that you are aware that a great many of your constituents are feeling the gravity of the moment and the need to take personal action to resist and counter threats to our democracy. I'm asking the board to consider adoption of a resolution in support of the rule of law. We need you, as our elected leaders, to speak up and stand up for democracy. Thank you.
Thank you. Clerk Moss, who do we have next?
The next two is Justin Potter and Elizabeth Johnson.
Thank you. Go ahead, Mr. Potter.
Good evening, Chair, Commissioners. My name is Justin Potter. I live in Reed's Crossing in District 3, directly adjacent to the proposed Central County Safe Rest Village at Southwest 209th and Tualatin TV Highway. I'm here to state clear opposition to this program at this location. The site was purchased and the program finalized before nearby residents were informed or consulted. That alone is unacceptable for a project of this scale and impact. But beyond process, this location is fundamentally inappropriate. It places a permanent shelter facility directly across from an active residential community and ongoing home construction, without demonstrating why this neighborhood should absorb impacts that were never consented to. We are now being told that community engagement will come through a good neighborhood agreement. This is not engagement. This is damage control after a decision has already been made. The county claims dozens of these sites were reviewed, yet residents have not been shown why alternatives were rejected, why this site was deemed acceptable, or why proximity to an established neighborhood was outweighed. Commissioner Snyder, as the representative of District 3, I'm asking you to oppose this siting, require reconsideration of alternatives, and ensure that no permanent shelter facility is imposed on a neighborhood without advance notice or public input. Over 600 residents and stakeholders have already signed a petition opposing this project at this location. That level of opposition should not be dismissed. The board should stop this project as proposed and do better by the communities it serves. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Johnson.
Chair Harrington, Commissioners Fye, Willie, Treese, and Snyder. Good evening. My name is Elizabeth Johnson, and I am here tonight to follow up on the resolution in support of the rule of law that concerned citizens of Washington County has urged you to place on an upcoming board agenda. We were present at last week's board meeting and were encouraged to hear at the following work session that Chair Harrington and Commissioner Snyder agreed to form a subcommittee, together with legal counsel for the board, Alex Barnett, to consider our resolution. We believe that as citizens of this county, we have the responsibility to reach out and establish a dialogue with our county leaders. We would like to provide input to the subcommittee and would like one or two of our members to meet with Ms. Harrington and Mr. Snyder and Mr. Barnett to provide context and information. We are open to fit into whatever time slot your schedules dictate. I am also here to spotlight the fact that the rule of law, which we know all of you support, is the underlying basis of the Oregon Attorney General's multiple lawsuits against the current administration. In addition to our state's action, other local governments, including Multnomah County, the City of Wilsonville, the City of Bend, and another 60 or so local governments across the country, have joined with King County, Washington, in its challenge to the executive branch usurpation of congressional funding. We hope that you, as our local representatives, will likewise take action, step forward, and support our resolution. Thank you for your time tonight.
Thank you. Clerk Moss, do we have anyone else?
The last one we have is Stephanie Davidson. Stephanie?
Chair Harrington and County Commissioners, thank you for your time tonight. I first want to start by saying thank you, Commissioner Treese, Commissioner Fye. I listened with great interest to the work session that was last week, I believe, that you even brought up background checks and our concern about violent people. I really appreciate that. It makes me feel heard. So thank you. And thank you, Commissioner Willie, for your follow-up after the last time Megan and I came to speak. I really appreciate you taking the time to do that. I want to keep my comments today focused on a very narrow issue. So after I spoke in November, gave testimony in November, we learned some information from the county. It seemed to us like we were being told that, in response to our request for background checks and categorical exclusions, that the reason the county couldn't do that was because of restrictions coming from Portland Metro. So I reached out to Portland Metro. I spoke to Liam Frost, who is the interim housing director, a couple of times, and I asked him, I said in a very open-ended way, this is what I'm hearing from the county. Is there any truth to this? And he initially told me, I'm shocked, this is not coming from Metro. He promised to follow up with someone at Washington County. He did that, and I followed up with him a couple of weeks ago. And he confirmed that this restriction didn't come from Metro. So I'm back to square one. I'm just trying to figure out what we're dealing with. So again, we've been told this restriction comes from Metro. Liam has now told me that Jess Larson's position is that the restriction comes from the county's other funding sources. I do remember hearing in the work session last week that it comes down to best practices. So I just want to know, where is this restriction coming from? If it's the county's policy, please just say that so that we can have a conversation starting from that point. Thank you for your time tonight.
Thank you.
Right. Commissioners, Chair Harrington, that concludes the 10 minutes total for this portion.
Okay, thank you. And for those of you interested in the Board of County Commissioners considering some sort of resolution and order with regard to the rule of law, as you've heard tonight, Commissioner Snyder and I are a board subcommittee to form up a proposal for future board consideration. At this time, we have that slated for board discussion at our work session on Tuesday, February 24th, if we choose to move forward based upon that conversation, the earliest that we would have the opportunity to take action would be on Tuesday, March 3rd. Now, everything is subject to change based upon issues of the day and board availability, but that is our current plan. Thank you. This was also mentioned at our public board meeting this afternoon, but since folks came and testified, I wanted to make sure that you had the opportunity of knowing that in the most transparent and timely manner. Thank you. Next, we'll move on to today's consent agenda, which consists of 6 items. 3 items from Land Use and Transportation, 1 item from IT, 1 item from Clean Water Services, and 1 item from the County Administrative Office. What are the wishes of the Commission?
I move to approve that consent agenda, Chair.
Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adopt tonight's consent agenda. All those in favor, please vote by raising your hand or saying aye. Thank you, Commissioners. Any opposed? The motion carries unanimously 5-0. I just want to mention on the resolution and order, item number 6, directing modification of the community participation program and transitioning Committee for Community Involvement Functions to Planning Commission. I want to compliment Ika Falstrom, who took the lead in development of an exemplary objective written memo of history, so we all have the benefit of that. And the closing sentence, the modernization of Washington County CPO and CCI structures offer a significant opportunity to better align community engagement practices with current needs, organizational capacity, and county-wide values. Thank you very much. Next, we'll move on to boards and commissions. Tonight, we have the opportunity to appoint various members to the Public Health Advisory Council. To appoint Ingrid Gonzalez, Catherine Ngenge, Georgia Ullman, Amber Reading Gazzini, Jessica Dudley, and Bridget Daisy to current vacancies, and to reappoint Afam Okoye to a second term. What are the wishes of the commission?
Move to approve as presented.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please vote by raising your hand or saying aye. Thank you, commissioners. Any opposed? The motion carries unanimously 5-0. Next, we'll move on to proclamations. And tonight, we have a proclamation to proclaim February 2026 as Black Heritage Month and encourage the people of Washington County to observe this month with appropriate programs, activities, and ceremonies. I would like to invite our staff members up and guests to take us through the proclamation. Welcome. And also, I want to invite you and other interested staff members to join us in a picture memorializing this afterwards as well. Please take it away.
Good evening, Chair Harrington and fellow commissioners. My name is Tyrone Henry, and I'm the Supplier Engagement Lead with the Office of Access and Opportunity. I am honored to introduce this proclamation as well as offer a few introductory remarks. Washington County cultural heritage celebrations and resource pages are an important starting point for our collective organizational engagement and learning about the community we serve, the diversity of lived experiences, equity, and inclusion. They offer an opportunity to enter and strengthen relationships with staff and community who recognize the important role that Black History Month offers. The Black and African American community, like all cultures, are not monolithic. It encompasses a range of diverse lived experiences, contributions, and opinions. Even with the wide range of Black experiences, the one thing we know to be true is Black history is American history and is essential to understanding the nation's full story and how Black and African American heritage is an integral part of that story. Thank you all to all the planning committee members for their hard work and dedication and to help us educate the Washington County community. With that, I'd like to turn it over to staff members Grace Zarpak and longtime county employee Natasha Posadas to read the proclamation.
Whereas the Washington County Board of Commissioners takes pride in recognizing February 2026 as Black History Month, honoring the many notable contributions that people of African descent have made to our country. And whereas for its 100th theme, the founders of Black History Month urges us to explore the impact and meaning of Black history and life commemorations in transforming the status of Black peoples in the modern world. And whereas we celebrate the diversity of Black people in Washington County, the state of Oregon, our nation, and the Black diaspora, whether they self-identify as African, African American, Afro-Latino, Afro-Caribbean, or Black, with this year's Black History Month theme of A Century of Black History Commemoration. And
Whereas the theme, A Century of Black History Commemoration, intends to encourage and honor broad celebration in all moments, themes, and events in Black history and culture across time and space and throughout the U.S., Africa, and the diaspora. And whereas 2026 marks a century of national commemorations of Black history, Dr. Carter G. Woodson, George Cleveland Hall, William D. Hartgrove, Jesse E. Moreland, Alexandra L. Jackson, and James E. Stamps institutionalized the teaching, study, dissemination, and commemoration of Black history when they founded the Association for the Study of Negro Life and History on September 9, 1915. And whereas on February 10, 1976, during the United States bicentennial, President Gerald R. Ford became the first president to issue a message recognizing Black History Month. Then, in 1986, Congress passed Public Law 99244, designating February as Black History Month. These efforts have made February the month when Black history finds its way not simply into the schools of the American nation, but also into cultural heritage sites, public squares, workplaces, houses of worship, and homes across the land and across the oceans. These institutions offer sites to discover and learn more about African American history through programming, camps, book displays, and exhibitions. And whereas despite these rich accomplishments in history, systematic racism persists in the United States, generating continued calls for lasting institutional and societal change so desperately needed in our country. And
whereas today and every day we celebrate African, African American, Afro-Latino, Afro-Caribbean, or Black heritage, and encourage all people to recognize and confront systemic racism in our neighborhoods and the wider community by standing in the gap at every opportunity, bridging barriers with fearlessness and determination to fight against racism and bigotry and improve representation of Black people in all facets of society. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Washington County Board of Commissioners do hereby proclaim February 1st through February 28th, 2026 as Black History Month and calls upon the people of Washington County to observe this month with appropriate programs, activities, and reflections, and to continue our efforts to create a world that is more just and prosperous for all.
Thank you very much, Mr. Henry, Ms. Posadas, and Ms. Zarpak for reading today's proclamation. I won't speak on behalf of my colleagues, but I can just say for myself that I very much appreciate your contributions here, not only as part of the Washington County workforce, but in the greater Washington County community and our nation. Thank you so much. Commissioners, any other comments?
Thank you for your presentation and reading and putting the proclamation together. Grace, you and I were on the same wavelength today. I had a shirt earlier. I was on Zoom, obviously, for the work session, and I had a shirt that said Black Lives Matter, and I like the shirt you're wearing. So with that, I'm happy to celebrate Black History Month, and thank you for your contribution. I echo the words the chair said.
Any other colleagues?
I just want to join in and say thank you so much, and thank you to the committee for bringing forward the proclamation, but also all of the activities for the month. I mean, I enjoy that a great deal and always learn a lot. So thank you for being here tonight, and thank you for the ongoing work as well.
And my comment will be to enthusiastically propose that we approve the Black History Month proclamation.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please vote by raising your hand or saying aye. Thank you, Commissioners. Any opposed? The motion carries unanimously 5-0. If you'll hold on for just one moment. Would you please join us in memorializing this occasion with a photograph up here on the dais? All righty. And now we're on to public hearings. We have two public hearings tonight, and the first one is in relation to a resolution and order to set the fiscal year 2026-27 maximum annual assessment of the Metzger Park Local Improvement District. And I'd like to have our staff come up. They're going to give us a presentation on this topic before we have tonight's public hearing. Welcome, and thank you to the two of you for being the experts on this and bringing it forward.
Thank you. My name is Laurel Brown. I'm the Director of Facilities, Fleet, and Parks. I'm here tonight with Carl Schweitzer, who is our Parks Division Manager, to seek your approval for the resolution in order to increase the fiscal year 26-27 maximum annual assessment of the Metzger Park Local Improvement District. Carl, in collaboration with Courtney Duke-Dreesen of County Council, has done an excellent job of navigating the process to get us here today. So I'm going to turn this presentation over to Carl now to proceed.
Good evening, Chair Harrington. Good evening, Commissioners. Tonight, we'll talk to you about the Metzger Park Local Improvement District maximum assessment. I will share with you some general information about Metzger Park. We'll talk about the process that got us to this evening, and then we can talk a little bit about our requested board action. So Metzger Park, for the audience, is located in unincorporated urbanized Washington County, north of the intersection of Highway 99 and Highway 217. It is located right off Hall Boulevard. This is a map of the boundary of the Metzger Park Local Improvement District. You can see the green blob in the middle is the park, and the surrounding area is the properties that pay into the maximum assessment. It's a 7-acre park, beautiful park, well-loved, well-used. It has been operated, owned by the county since 1921. It was dedicated to the county specifically for park purposes. It's got lots of wonderful amenities, including a playground, basketball and tennis courts, open lawn, and the Patricia D. Whiting Metzger Park Hall. Here's a few photographs from the park. The photograph on the left is from the Metzger Park Easter egg hunt, an annual event that's held every year, long-standing event. Center is a basketball court that we opened in 2020, largely using local improvement district funds, and a nice picture of some new bike racks that we put in recently. So a little history on the local improvement district. The property was managed mostly by volunteers for decades before the generational turnover did not produce enough interest in operating the park as a volunteer effort. The Metzger community approached the county at that time, and through that process, a new funding and operations strategy was devised, and the Metzger Park Local Improvement District was formed in 1975. The annual assessment funds are used for the operation and maintenance of the park, and also for capital replacement and improvements. In the 50 years since the inception of the Metzger Park Local Improvement District, the maximum annual assessment has increased 5 times. The other 45 years, it was held at the previous year or years rate. The maximum annual assessment is raised when collected assessment dollars can no longer cover the rising operational costs, or if new capital replacements or improvements are needed. And Metzger Park budget receives no contribution from the county's general fund. So our proposal seeks to address 2 primary issues. The first of them is the cost of operating and maintaining the park continues to rise. This includes a variety of increases, including the personnel costs, internal service charge cost increases, and just the increasing cost of contracted services and materials and supplies. I'll talk a little bit more about both of these bullet points in the next couple of slides. The second reason is that the playground equipment is at the end of its useful life, and we need to have a strategy in place to create the funding to replace it, with the concern that if we don't have a strategy in place, that when the playground fails, we will not have a playground at Metzger Park. So here is a snapshot of the current year Metzger Park budget, and I just wanted to make point out a few points here. That the vast majority of the revenue that operates Metzger Park comes from the local improvement district maximum annual assessment. We do make a little bit of money on interest. That is the interest income that's shown above, and then the rental income. We do rent the Metzger Park Hall to the public for a variety of events, and we make a small amount of money that helps offset the costs of operating the park. But the vast majority of funding does come from the assessment. Personnel costs are the largest part of the budget. It is true of the park's budget as well. We are a labor-intensive work group. And so it's no surprise then that it consumes a large part of our revenue. Materials and services, you can see on there, is the second most expensive piece, or the third most expensive piece behind the internal service charges. Those are the costs that Metzger Park has to contribute to the county for other services that are provided to it. And as you can see on this slide, it makes up about 49% of the current assessment. This is pretty unsustainable. It is not sustainable. This year we're fortunate that we had enough money in the fund balance that we were able to make up the difference between the revenue that we were receiving versus the costs that we were being asked to bear. So the first point of the proposal to increase it is to address this, that we will need additional revenue to maintain our current level of parks operation. The second point is that the playground needs to be replaced. The public playground equipment has a finite lifespan, And it depends on the materials, it depends on how much it's loved or abused, it depends on the weather and how well it's maintained. We've done an excellent job of maintaining the play equipment there, but that doesn't change the fact that the most recent piece is now 24 years old, which is about the end of a lifespan for a public park playground. All of the pictures at the bottom of this slide, that equipment is 50 years old and was installed in the 1970s. There is no more replacement parts available for these. When they fail, we have to pull them out of the ground and have a specific welder come and work on these pieces, and they are at the end of their useful life. So we have worked with the Metzger community to come up with a plan of addressing both of these concerns. We've been talking about it with the Metzger Park Local Improvement District Advisory Board for a few years, and we started this process in earnest in July of this year, where we brought to them this proposal that is now in front of you to not only to increase the maximum assessment to not only cover the operational costs of the park, but also to create a 5-year plan to replace the playground equipment. They supported that proposal in July. Subsequently, we sent a mailer to all of the folks inside of the Metzger Park Local Improvement District, advising them that we were going to discuss this issue at the October Metzger Park Local Improvement District Advisory Board meeting, encouraging them to come and participate and informing them how to do that. So then at the October meeting, we made the presentation that is in front of you tonight, again to the Metzger Park Local Improvement District Advisory Board, and again they confirmed their support for this. So based on that, we sent a letter out to all of the property owners within the local improvement district boundary, and also letters to all of the overlapping taxing districts, notifying them of our intention to make this proposal to you and ask for your support in increasing the maximum assessment. We sent letters at the end of November. They arrived in mailboxes around the beginning of December, maybe late November, and people were encouraged to submit any comments that they had by January 1st, and you have received those in your packet tonight. And that brings us to tonight, where we ask you for your support. This is a copy of the mailer that was sent out. We were celebrating the new pathway that was open there. That was also a capital project that was done with Metzger Park Local Improvement District maximum assessment dollars. We were successfully completed it earlier in 2025 under budget and ahead of schedule. So we've consistently been good stewards of local improvement district dollars at this park. And you can see there's the invitation to come to the October meeting. Letter on the right is an example of one of the letters that we sent to the overlapping taxation districts. So just restating the need that Metzger Park is an enterprise fund. There are no additional opportunities for revenue other than to pursue an increase to the maximum annual assessment to fund the operation and maintenance of the park, and also to develop a 5-year plan to replace the playground. So our request is to increase the maximum assessment to $639 starting fiscal year 26-27. A couple of slides to show that the way that we intend to collect the money for these two pieces is that the operational costs will continue to increase year over year. So the first couple of years of the new assessment is when we anticipate collecting the majority of the money for the playground replacement. And at about year 5, we anticipate that the top of those two bars will be parallel, at which point we will stop collecting for playground replacement and utilize the funding just for operations and maintenance of the park. This is the same information presented differently. So in the first couple of years is where we would collect the vast majority of the money for the playground replacement. It will diminish over time as the cost of operating and maintaining the park continues to increase. The point here is, though, that we anticipate that if the maximum assessment is increased to $639,000, that we would not need to increase it for at least 5 years. I think I've said all that. And so with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you, Mr. Schweitzer. Commissioners, do you have any questions on tonight's proposal? Commissioner Snyder, go ahead.
Mr. Schweitzer, on the budget that you propose or that you put forward earlier, one thing that was striking to me is that I think the internal service cost charges are actually higher than the personnel costs for the whole year. That's definitely unusual, I think, for our operations just generally. Can you comment on why that is in particular in this budget, and whether you think that makes sense?
The internal service charges are numbers that are communicated to us. It's not a participatory effort, that we're told that this is what we need to pay in order to receive the services that we get from those. It is a large part of our budget, but
thank you, Mr.
It's the cost we have to pay.
I do think it's worth noting that in the relative cost of those two buckets of money, the operations dollars that directly go to the park experience and the internal service fund, one of the reasons that internal service fees are higher is because of the good stewardship that Carl's team is doing with the park to keep the costs low at Metzger Park. Correct me if I'm wrong, Carl, but I don't think we even have a full FTE assigned to this park. We are very frugal in our operations of those, so the operations dollars are almost artificially low is the piece I would add to that.
Ms. Angie, do you have anything you'd like to add?
Yes, thank you. So there's multiple drivers that go into cost allocation plan, and for members of the public, that is how we fund the internal service kind of offerings, so HR, finance, etc. It is a thick book, about this thick, about how, and we hire a consultant to help apply that, so we are actually applying that equitably across all funds. So there's various levers, such as number of purchase orders processed to cover those costs, for example, in finance. Hours spent with relative to county council, for example. So it is a formula that's used, and then out comes the dollars for the internal service cost. There is always a tension between, well, let's lower our internal service costs so that we can provide more direct service to community. That is not lost on us as staff, because as we've gone through 5 years of consistent year-over-year budget cuts, that is our desire, to provide the highest, best direct service to community. And what we're also doing is ensuring that we are allocating out a true cost of service. So from staff's perspective, this is a true cost of service. And so when we show what is the cap fee and what is the direct parks operation, that is the cost of delivering park service, and we can't have one without the other.
But it's all part of being fully transparent. Go ahead, Commissioner Fye.
Thank you, Chair. Carl, I always appreciate you coming to the board and presenting. I feel like you're always succinct and to the point and direct. This presentation, when I was reviewing the material, there's a line that says, in the 50 years since the inception of the MPLID, the maximum annual assessment has increased 5 times, 1988, 1995, 2002, and 2019, and 2024. And today, obviously, there's a huge gap in any of those years, except 2019 to 25 years. But what I said to myself was, of course, because cost of inflation, cost of things have increased. So of course we need to go out, and I'm glad to hear that there's nobody objecting. And okay, sorry, I misspoke. There's a couple, but I didn't get in critical emails, considering the gap of the year of the improvements since we went to the community. I didn't get an overwhelming objections in my inbox, and I look forward to hearing yours. Sorry, sir, to get ahead of the. But what caught my attention, and there is a question coming to you, so just so you know that I'm not just talking. What caught my attention was the part about the equipment that said most of the play equipment at Metzger Park is from 1975. And I thought, I zoomed in even last night and over the weekend. I try to make it last weekend to go over there and see. But what I noticed is the equipment are fairly new and seem to be in good condition. And then it made me think of the question of what is the utilization of this park, right? Are people actually utilizing? And then I thought to myself, if it's not broken, why fix it? So then why do we need to go out, right? And ask that question of, we need to increase. I agree, the inflation, the cost of living, everything, but there's also costs of water and electricity are increasing. So the crisis of prosperity exists everywhere in Washington County. So people are, the dollar doesn't go far enough, and we don't have a lot of dollars in our wallet these days. So considering that, how necessary is this? And to go back to the budget, talk to us. Do we actually need to go out this time? And could we wade in? And what does that mean for you all? Because if it's not infrastructure and safety concern, I'm not sure we need to go for beautification.
Thank you. So the equipment that has been there since the 1970s has been repaired multiple times over the year. At some point, it will no longer be able to be repaired. Just in the last few weeks, we've had to put yellow tape around one of the climbing bar structures because there was a crack in the welds again. We are having to close the large swing set because it's old and the metal is wearing out and it's broken. It is a safety hazard, and there is no replacement parts available for those unless you have them specially fabricated, which is a considerable expense. The playground equipment, the reason that it looks as good as it does is because of the quality care that our staff puts into it. Our groundskeeper and groundskeeping team take immense pride in the work they do. And so they keep it painted nicely. They keep it clean. They keep all of the bark chips that are the safety cushioning if people fall off raked and at the appropriate level. We do our safety inspections weekly and our larger safety inspections on the playground equipment quarterly. And there is a lot of care that goes into making very old equipment look as good as it does. We also know that at some point the manufacturers are not going to be manufacturing replacement parts, and that some of the pieces are going to fail. And so rather than slowly disassembling the playground over time, what park providers typically do is at the end of the lifespan of that piece of equipment is they'll replace it. We think that at 24 years, it's still in relatively decent shape, but we also anticipate that given another 5 years before we have the resources to replace it, there will be no replacement parts, and it will be much closer to having to be removed. And from our understanding from the community survey that we did and the interactions that we've had from the Metzger Park Local Improvement District Advisory Board, Metzger Park would not be Metzger Park without a playground. And if the option is save the money to replace it or wait until it completely fails and remove it and just have no playground there, I don't know that the community would be very excited about that.
If I can just add to that, Commissioner, I appreciate your question, and Carl, your answer in actually uplifting the due diligence you do for safety checks on the playground. Playgrounds can present a significant liability to local governments. And so not just maintaining, replacing, but doing those safety checks is incredibly important. So I want to also uplift the replacement of equipment at a time that it is not beyond its useful life is incredibly important for safety of individuals who are using that equipment and county liability.
Thank you. I really appreciated the answer. I just wanted to thank you.
The point of clarification, could you please go back to the slide that has the pictures of the playground equipment? In the spirit of complete openness and transparency, even though I believe it was initially presented very well. There you go. The equipment in the top, that green and yellow equipment, that is the 24-year-old equipment that Mr. Schweitzer was referring to. And the equipment in the bottom of this slide, particularly the merry-go-round, the climbing bars and so forth, that is the original 50-year-old equipment that he mentioned. So since there were two different ages of equipment mentioned, I wanted to come back to which was which. Other commissioner questions, please. Commissioner Treese.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for the presentation. In this LID, what percentage of the money coming in comes from Washington Square?
I don't have it specifically broken out by those particular properties. It is about 60% from residential properties and about 40% from commercial properties.
I just wanted to get, I knew that it was a high percentage from commercial properties, and I just wanted to get that piece out there too, because I think that that's an interesting dynamic in that particular neighborhood, that the funding is in an unusual balance.
And Carl probably remembers this much more clearly than I do, but the last time around when we increased the assessment, it looks like 2024, or it could have been even earlier. We had a lot of discussion and clarification about how properties were formed into the LID and it not being something that an individual property can opt out of, things of that nature. So I would, if folks are looking for that history, certainly they can contact our staff, but you also have access to our information on the GREAT portal and those presentations as well. So are there any other commissioner questions for tonight? Okay, seeing none, thank you very much for the staff report thus far. I know you won't go far. At this juncture, I would like to open a public hearing and ask Clerk Moss who we have signed up to speak this evening.
The first two we have is Grace Rowan and Chrissy Rowan, and it looks like they are Zoom, so we'll start there and then we'll come back to in person. Chrissy or Grace, can you hear us? You able to unmute?
Hi, good evening. My name is Chrissy.
Please go ahead.
And this is my daughter, Grace. Hello. Grace would like to speak first. I'm not sure why you can't see us. Is there video available?
We don't take testimony on video. We just take your audio testimony.
Great. My daughter, Grace, would like to speak first.
Good evening. My name is Grace, and I live in Metzger, and I've loved this park and gone to this park since I was really little. And I've been having to go to other parks with my friends, and when I take them to this park, sometimes they don't really like to play any of the play structures we have here. And 2 years ago, my friend he broke his arm on the yellow moving monkey bars. And because they're so high, and he got really hurt for a while, and I really wanted to get a new play structure so I'd be able to go to this park, and I hope that families can support this increase because I think it is a good thing to do so people can enjoy outside activities, especially this one. And this is one of the closest parks to me. Most of other parks I have to drive a lot farther so we can get and it's one I can walk to. A lot of kids and I would love if you guys would support a new playground. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
Grace.
you very much, Grace, for your firsthand comments. And now over to you, Chrissy Rowan, Grace's mom.
Hi, good evening. Thank you, Board of Commissioners, for hearing us this evening. This is a very special park for our family, and I honestly feel like it doesn't represent our community well. Looking at the playground, it's very old and has metal slides that are getting really hot in the summertime, and it's an eyesore, and it's just not what kids are playing on these days. And we have to drive to other communities because this is just old school. So I just really support it. I'm not gonna enjoy paying from $80 to $100 and something, but in the end game, this is important to us and it's important to the children in our community. And Washington County deserves to look better at this park. But I also want to say that the beautification and the upgrades that this park has seen in the last 5 years are significant. And it is amazing to walk over there, walk those paths, see all of the new natural, beautiful native plants planted. It is an absolute phenomenal job that our dollars went to. The park is gorgeous. There is no trash anytime I'm there. Like literally, I don't know if I go right after the groundskeeper just finished, but it is pristine. It smells good. My soul gets refreshed. There's people playing basketball. I see my neighborhood boy kids like interacting with each other and not playing video games. I mean, a park is where a community talks to each other. I talk to grandmothers who have toddlers who are raising these kids, whether their kids try to scrape together, 80-hour work weeks to pay the bills. Yes, they're not excited about paying $120 a year, but their kids are thriving and loving this park. And I am proud to be part of this park and part of this county, and I'm excited to invest in it. And I do want to say, please, in the next couple of years, please consider putting some of the general fund our way as well as we create a beautiful play structure. Thank you for your time. Have a good evening.
Thank you, Grace and Chrissy, for joining us tonight.
All right. Thank you. The next two we have is Jason Schraber and Roy Beatty.
Mr. Schreiber, you're up next, and I have to apologize to you, Roy. I did not catch your last name, so if you could tell me when.
It's on the handout.
Okay, terrific. So go ahead, sir.
Thank you very much. I'm a 24-year resident of the Metzger area. My girls have grown up playing at Metzger Park, so the park has a lot of history. When I told my girls I was coming here tonight to be a part of the meeting, they asked why, and I told them, well, they're talking about replacing the playground there, and both of them were like, no, not the playground. So, the playground equipment is it's used, it's loved. It's a testament to the staff that cares for it and does a great job. And the comments from the last lady that said the park is beautiful, it is well cared for, the new paths there are amazing. So one thing I will say, and I'm guilty of being one of the parents that has probably led to them having to maintain that merry-go-round. It's one of the few merry-go-rounds that is out there that kids nowadays get a chance to enjoy. I think it's a testament to the way that things were built 50 years ago, if it has lasted that long. We talk about the play structure being at the end of its life now after 24 years, but I would say it's a testament to the rest of the play structures that are there, that they are still going strong after 50 years, and to the staff that is caring for them. So the one thing I would say is, as a resident of Metzger, we've just recently been hit with 2 additional large tax increases from the bond that was introduced this last year. The addition of another increase with the LID is just another burden that we're not too excited about. With the meeting facilities there, I don't know that I've ever been there when I've seen the meeting facility in use. I feel like there's other underused resources or underutilized resources that could be a source of funding for the park, and I would encourage additional looking into other ways of raising funds other than increasing taxes.
Thank you, sir. Now over to you.
Well, thank you, Chair Harrington and Commissioners, for hearing me. My name is Roy Beatty. I've lived in the LID, been a resident there for 35 years. My kids grew up in the park and lived 2 blocks away. I love the park like everybody else does, but I question why we really need a second doubling of the assessment since one in 24, another one 2 years later. So I'm requesting that you defer the proposed increase in the LID maximum assessment until we look more closely at the funding equity and the alternatives for the playground structure. And the funding, the Metzger Park LID bears an undue burden given that we've had our general funds taken away a couple years ago, and that's shown in the right on those tables. And at the same time, an increase was given to the parks budget of general funds on top of other government resources coming in. Now, that little sliver that shows for Metzger Park up there doesn't look big until you look at the pie charts and how much that composed of what our budget was. And so that's a big piece of pie that's missing. At the same time, there are significant increases you've sometimes discussed already in the personal services, which increased 2.4-fold the same time, okay, and also internal services, which are now almost half of the budget. And, it's pretty opaque as to how that happens. We had some explanation. So on top of that, then, we've lost resources, and we're being asked to fund a play structure. Now, I would say that we really need to take a better look at alternatives for that, because instead of tearing down a structure that still is in very good shape and has a lot of use left in it, in my opinion, and replace it with something that may cost $1 million, let's look at an alternative that builds something smaller beside it and retains out of the structure. We can't waste something that has value for us. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir, for your comments. Clerk Moss, who else do we have?
Next, we have Holly Schwartz and Jim Long.
Go ahead, Ms. Schwartz.
All right. Thank you very much. Just a couple quick comments, because a lot of what I had down, people have already said. One of the things that keeps striking a note to me is this is future in 5 years. Can we not do some fundraising in 5 years to help this? It's almost like saying, okay, my dishwasher warranty is going to be up in 5 years, so I need to replace it now. We've lived in Metzger area for 38 years, and we've used the park a lot. And my kids are all grown and married now, but still I use the walking paths, and it's beautiful, and we see the people that are there. But as what was already said, we've been hit hard with taxes this year. And myself and my husband now retired and on a budget income that doesn't go up. This, between everything else, is causing financial difficulties. So as much as I love this, something has to give. And is it we have to move out of the area because we're taxed so much. I don't know. But my thought would be, can we not do some fundraising? Can we use that meeting hall and promote it and use some of that towards it? If we're waiting 5 years out, I could use that money now, and in 5 years, maybe be in a little bit better. So I think that's my main thing. I'll just stop there. I'm nervous.
Well, thank you for joining us tonight and sharing your thoughts
Thank
with
you.
us. We try to make sure we have a welcoming environment.
You do.
So, thank you. Go ahead, Mr. Long.
Hello, Commissioners. You have the letter. CPO4M met last week, and we oppose this double tax increase for the park improvement property owners at this point. We had this on the agenda as an action item, but somehow it got censored and taken off. But we put it back on, and we considered it. We understand there are constraints. I agree with our neighbor here who believes there could be some fundraising. I was last in here talking about last time I was in here talking about the park was April 1st, 2014. 2014. It was a long time ago. And I remember it distinctly, though, and I was commenting on the basketball court. The basketball court was an ankle breaker. It was in such bad condition. And the thought then was fundraising. I mean, you got big corporations like Nike and other sports things here that would be valuable to help fund some of this expense. So I offer that as a suggestion. So CPM04M requests a presentation by the county and discussion at a CPO meeting. This has been going for a while, and we didn't get any. We rent the park where we use the Metzger Park Hall, the Pat Whiting Metzger Park Hall. We've used that for decades and decades. And we usually have people come in to talk to us, and they didn't come in to do a presentation whatsoever. Now, Carl has come and done some other work. We had the Metzger Centennial back 12 years ago, 15 years ago. And the Washington County Sheriff's Office said there were 1,000 people who attended. So it can be well used. Indeed, I don't think that the hall is used as much. We believe also, we request that a public vote be held amongst LID voters regarding this huge tax increase. Why is there only one public hearing on this major increase? Of the comments that we received, 19 of them opposed this tax increase. That's at least 6 times more than were in favor of it. Many more had questions that I don't know were answered. Other commenters had questions about why, again, this rate increase, why is it double again in only, within a decade? Actually, I'm sure it's less than that. So anyway, those are comments from the CPO. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Long. Clerk Moss, do we have anyone else who wishes to speak on this matter?
Yes, we have a sir in the back. Sir, just come forward to the microphone and state your name, and then you'll go for 2 minutes.
Right up there, yes.
Yeah, obviously a lot of people are, Norman Brindley, Metzger student, resident for 30 years.
Thank you.
Yeah, a lot has already been said, but yeah, there again, 100% increase. I mean, PG went up 36% in 6 years, and we thought that was a lot. 100% in 1 year is a lot. I've been to that park a lot. That playground equipment, the newer ones, I Googled it, it said it was 2013. Maybe, I guess I was wrong. It's 24 years, that would obviously only be 13 years. That looks almost brand new. That's solid grade steel it's made out of. There's not even any rust on it. I can't see replacing that equipment there in $1 million. I know it doesn't go as far as it used to, but geez, that's a lot of money for that equipment. The merry-go-round, look how old that is. It's still usable. As far as the maintenance goes, it's just $136,000. That's $11,000 a month for just maintenance. That's mowing it's a lot of grass there. It's just mowing the grass. It just seems like a lot of money to me for that. And also here, it says the last increase, that no new increases until 2032, and here, 2 years later, it's already want to double it. I just can't see how that can happen. And let's see, what else was I going to say? Actually, I guess everybody else has pretty much said what I was going to say, so that's, just this, we hear so much about affordability, but I don't see much affordability on this proposal. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brimley. Clerk Moss, is there anyone in the room or online who wishes to testify during this public hearing?
Is there any other person in the auditorium scanning around, not seeing any hands? Anyone coming forward? Is there any other member by Zoom that wishes to provide public comment on this public hearing? As you've heard from staff, just give you a moment to utilize the raise hand function. Not seeing any hands, Chair Harrington.
Thank you, Clerk Moss. At this juncture, I'd like to open the table up for board comments, including the possibility of a motion and a second to move forward with this resolution and order brought to us from staff and the Metzger Park Advisory Board. Go ahead,
Thank you,
Commissioner
Chair.
Schneider.
This, we're going to have a lot of conversations over the next, I think, decade or two that are similar to this one. This is one example of an urban service being provided in urban unincorporated Washington County. And, county boards and policy decisions that have been made by prior county commissions going back probably 40 to 50 years has led to development of urban unincorporated areas. That's not normal, just so everybody in Washington County that thinks that's normal, since we have a third of the county's population living that way, it's not normal. And this is the kind of problem that comes from doing that or making those decisions. I make that link because comments about the general fund being used for a park like this that is essentially a local park, when someone that lives in unincorporated urban Washington County says the general fund should subsidize that, what you're actually saying is that everyone that lives all around that doesn't necessarily use that park, who also, if they're city residents, pay for all the parks in their cities as well, some parks, which you may all go to as well, that they should pay for your park too and all their parks. And that is a simple description of a problem here, but that applies to the county region-wide. And I firmly believe that if county commissioners and prior leaders of this organization 30, 40, 50 years ago would have seen what the results of those decisions are now, hopefully they would have made different decisions. But they didn't. And so we are here needing to take care of the stuff that we own. I don't think that not taking care of stuff is an option. And I don't think 50-year-old play equipment that generally is supposed to last 20 to 30 years at max is acceptable. So to me, the questions are, I could potentially support a decision to, just remove all the play equipment to get rid of the hazards eventually when that needs to happen. That's an option. I don't think it's a good one, and it's not the kind of community I want to live in, but these are choices that the people that live in this improvement district ultimately can make in the long run. If you don't want the park, you don't want to pay for taking care of it, understandable. If you want to join a city, that'd probably be the smartest thing to do if you want urban level services in the long run. But if you don't want to join a city, then these are the kinds of things you got to tackle. And it's our responsibility to make sure that things are safe, that things can be cared for, and that we do planning in the long range. Like saying something's good now, but it's going to have to be replaced in 5 years. You can't start saving in 5 years to be able to replace something in 5 years. It doesn't work like that. This stuff's expensive, and it requires planning. And so for those reasons, I am open to alternatives that don't put the county at risk, that take care of the stuff we own. I heard a lot of people suggest fundraising. I didn't hear any of them volunteer to do the fundraising. And that all takes time, lots of time. And it's not that successful, to be honest, most of the time. So if someone, I am sure that if a group wants to go raise $300,000 or $400,000 for Metzger Park to replace all the equipment, we would probably happily adjust the costs in the local improvement district. Like, we could make that adjustment, but you know, I hear that, and then I don't see it happen in action, and I've seen that consistently in my time in elected office. So those are my comments.
Any other commissioner comments? I'll finish up then before I ask for a motion and a second. I want to thank not only our great staff for taking care of this park, and as well as the Metzger Park Local District Advisory Board on the work that they do throughout the course of each and every year to bring ideas and thoughts to our staff on making that park a good experience for the property owners who pay into the local improvement district. Thank you, Commissioner Snyder, for clearly articulating that this is a local area supported park and is not part of the county-wide park system. We have very limited parks. I also want to thank those of you who sent us comments, as well as those of you who showed up tonight, either in person or on Zoom, for participating and asking questions. I want to offer particularly to Mr. Beatty to send me an email at chair@washingtoncounty.or.gov. And I'm happy to meet with you, whether by phone, by video, or in person, to help give you the context of how we went from a system where the general fund had to provide a subsidy to the system of countywide having an internal services fund system, well documented, part of our very public budget committee work, and how we have improved the financial planning and instrumentation here of the county to do the work for the community. As the documentation for this item well documents, there are 3 of us sitting up here of the 5 of us tonight who joined the board in 2019. And in 2019, that was the first time that there had been an increase in the maximum annual assessment since 2022. That's 17 years. 2000. Thank you. 2002. I said it wrong. My colleagues know me well in terms of messing up on dates all the time. So it had been set in 2002, and it had not increased until 2019. And one of the reasons why that they brought that proposal to us is that the community was asking for improvements and investments, both in the hall, in the walking path for a basketball, but also just the overall care of the park. So they brought a proposal to us in 2019. It was very well thought of, had gone through the advisory board process as well, as is all of the assessments through the budget. They came back to us in 2024 because despite the improvement district maximum indebtedness increase, as well as a lot of work that our staff did on pursuit of grant monies, there was a delta between the financial fund resources and what was needed to continue to make those investments on behalf of the community request and care for the park. It's been very clear during all of those years that the playground equipment needed to be replaced, but that they needed to go through further study on options. And that's where we are now. They've been following a very well-considered process as they documented through the engagement process here tonight. So I want to thank our staff for bringing us this opportunity, as well as the advisory board, and I will be supporting this action if there is a motion and a second to move forward with it.
May I comment?
Oh, we're coming back to comments. Yes, go ahead, Vice Chair Willie.
So, full disclosure, I did not read this information very closely. I'm aware of Metzger Park, and I'm aware that we've been increasing the assessments because we needed to and all of that. So I'm aware of the history. What I wasn't aware of is that we were doubling the assessment this year. So, and I wasn't aware that the county charges $157,000 a year to support, for internal services, okay? So my question is, and I don't know if this is to you, Alex, or who, could this group, they already have a board, could they form a nonprofit and run the park on their own with, of course, they'd have to have, I guess, some sort of a lease arrangement with the county, but could they go off on their own, provide their own services, provide their own whatever it is that we charge them $157,000 for? Could they do that on their own?
I mean, there's a lot wrapped up in that. Theoretically, yes. And if you want a specific answer, we'll have to get back to you after doing a little more research, Commissioner.
Well, and I don't know what the park assessment process would entail and those kinds of things. So there's probably some complexities in there, but honestly, I'm not feeling real comfortable with this kind of an increase in one gigantic step. I would have preferred to see it spread out over a few years. I need to understand some of this stuff a little bit more, and like I said, I didn't do my homework on this. So for that, I apologize to the folks in Metzger Park, and I'd almost like to see us consider other options. Tanya, you wanted to comment?
So Commissioner Willie, as a follow-up, and I know that was directed to County Council, we can provide the information on the park land itself, when the county had acquired the park land, and in fact, and I don't have the details memorized, but it must be maintained as a park by Washington County. So we can follow up and make sure that you have that documentation, because we went through that process in 2024 during the last assessment increase, because that was one of the questions that came up is, does the county actually have to operate that? Could this be done in a different way?
And so does our staff do the landscaping and the maintaining of the park?
Correct.
And we just charge them?
The county staff maintain the local improvement district, and then there's an advisory board, as Carl had mentioned, that provides input to the management, maintenance, operations, et cetera.
Okay. I guess I'm probably not going to support this, and would probably ask that we continue this, because I'd like to have other considerations done. I completely understand this is a great facility, but I get it. We're doubling the fees, and doesn't feel very good. So
Related to that, Ms. Angie, I understand there are really two motivating forces for this fee increase. It was in a slide about operations costs as well as building the fund for capital. I'm summarizing, obviously. But if we don't raise it to at least an operations level, you've already spoken previously about if we don't start building this fund now, within 5 years, we run the risk, safety risks and injury and liability risks. So this is the prudent proposal now, as I understand through the presentation, to build that fund to replace it in 5 years' time, as opposed to waiting and have to just remove all of the equipment due to the liabilities.
Excuse me. I think there's a few different options. Staff's proposal was to equalize the rates now to spread the capital cost over time. There is the option to make a determination to, as I believe you referenced, Chair, to not replace the equipment. That could be an option. It could be another option to not include the capital increase now and do that as, I'll call it like a balloon later on. So there's different ways to manage the cost or the impact if this is a park that is desired but to have playground equipment.
But the bottom line is we can't keep operating the park, period, without some increase.
Correct.
Yeah, I see that. It's a $133,000 deficit is in that information. So that's what I understand as well. So it's not like it's going to be a flat line straight across, but it's not going to double. So I apologize, Chair, because I should have had this conversation with you before and other commissioners, but I am going to make a motion to postpone this item for a couple of weeks so that we can have further discussion with the Metzger Park Board of Directors and other individuals.
I'll second that.
But could I clarify? The information I hear you asking for isn't from that advisory board solely, but also from our staff, and you didn't list them in the motion. Because you were looking for alternatives.
When I say we're going to have a discussion, the presumption is it's going to be county staff and the Board of Directors. So I'm not going to do that all by myself. So that's, if that needs to be included, I so include it.
Well, and to be clear, in a couple of weeks, we already have full agendas for our work sessions. So we're going to have to work out what's the priority and then realize we have different people out at different times. So it's just complicated.
I would have an alternative thought, and I won't make a motion since we already have one on the table, but I'm just trying to think about how to move this forward efficiently, but in a way that addresses at least our immediate funding needs, and that would be to have the work done to come back with simply something that meets the operational needs financially over the next year. And then my proposal would be that, I mean, this is a small enough district. My proposal would be that in the next year or two, we conduct or have an election within the LID about whether they want to spend the money on replacing all this equipment or whether as soon as the equipment becomes unusable, we just remove it. That sounds like a decision the community wants to make. And given where we are overall, I think it's a reasonable path forward. I don't think it's a reasonable path forward to not deal with the funding situation this year. And I don't think that requires a lot of work, or I think it could be done in the next couple of weeks and come back to us in the appropriate process. So I'm not going to make that as a motion yet, but that would be a path I would suggest others consider.
Hang on one sec. Are you going to be back by the 10th, though?
I could zoom in. Go ahead, Alex.
Chair, two points of order. One, before you move to a vote on anything, you need to close the public hearing. And then second, ordinance 3.20.130 does allow your board to continue this as you deem necessary. So Miss Angie and I have been talking over here. I don't know if she wants to talk about the details of the funding stream.
If you delay the hearing, we can come back with the assessment rate that would include coverage of the operations and maintenance, and then continue the conversation on the capital needs for the park.
So you would close the hearing,
I get
continue
those
it, reopen it.
procedures. Yeah, but I think I just want to make it clear in terms of the motion that is on the table, and I will come back to that for a full vote as well, that I also know from our prior LID assessments and levies that we needed to do it within a certain time for the budget. So you'll just have to send us an email and figure out all that math. So, but first, let me close the public hearing. So with that, I will close today's public hearing, and we have a motion on the floor that has been seconded to continue this item over requesting additional information. So the soonest we will come back to it would be in a couple of weeks.
And that motion has been seconded.
Yes, I know.
So are you asking for a vote?
I was about to. I was just trying to put a period on that statement. Are there any other commissioner questions? Okay. There are comments.
Sorry, I have questions. So is the motion that Commissioner Willie made that I seconded consistent with what the county administrator and county council just said? We could come back with a public hearing, or extending the public hearing? Continuing the public hearing?
The motion, as I heard the intent of the board, is to continue the public hearing to a date to be determined, at which time you'll reopen the public hearing.
Yes, sir, that was the process. Okay, are we all clear on that now? All those in favor, please vote by raising your hand or saying aye. Thank you, commissioners. Any opposed? The motion carries unanimously, 5-0. Mr. Beatty, my offer still stands. Okay, next we'll move on to our second public hearing of this evening, and this is with regard to revisions that our independently elected program auditor has brought to us for changing sections of the county charter. So I'm welcoming Ms. Christine Adams-Wanberg up to the table to take us through a brief presentation.
Good evening, Madam Chair and members of the Board of Commissioners. For the record, my name is Christine Adams-Wanberg, and I'm the elected county auditor. I am here to give a short presentation on the R&O for the revisions to the county auditor's portion of the county charter. These concepts were brought before your board at a work session on November 4th. The first hearing was on January 6th, and January, obviously, 27th is our second hearing here. There are only 3 revisions that I'm requesting for this. One is to eliminate the Certified Government Auditing Professional certification as a qualification to run for the auditor. This certification has not been available for many, many years. It's an out-of-date certification, so I'd like to have that removed from the charter. The second is to extend the residency requirements to run for county auditor from 6 months to 12 months. And then the third is to add the requirement that the county auditor's performance audits be done according to government auditing standards. Those are the 3 revisions I'm requesting. If you have questions, I would be more than happy to answer them.
So commissioners, do you have any questions on tonight's proposed resolution and order? Seeing none, thank you. I would like to open a public hearing and ask Clerk Moss if we have anyone who wishes to testify on this proposal to move forward with charter revisions to the ballot.
Is there any member in the auditorium that wish to provide comment? Looking around, not seeing any hands, not anyone coming forward. Is there any member by Zoom that wish to provide public comment on this public hearing as you've heard from our county auditor? I'll just give you a moment to utilize raise hand function. Not seeing any hands, Chair Harrington.
Thank you. Seeing none, I'd like to close tonight's public hearing and ask for a motion to approve this resolution in order to refer the charter revisions to the ballot for the upcoming May 2026 election.
Before I say that, I was going to move it, but it was that clear. That's why you didn't have anybody coming to testify during the public hearing, because it was very succinct. So, and I so moved that motion, Chair.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please vote by raising your hand or saying aye. Thank you, Commissioners. Any opposed? The motion carries unanimously 5-0. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Board.
Thank you for the work session and one-on-ones that we had on this matter. Next, we'll move on to our action agenda, brought to us by Clean Water Services, to accept the results of the forensic investigation of training, travel, and meal expenditures and affirm the Clean Water Services response. Mr. Shanley, Interim CEO, any comments to start us off?
And thank you. A great milestone that we're achieved and presenting here tonight, and I'm going to just turn it over to Brad Anderson, Senior Assistant Legal Counsel, and Kathy Leader, our CFO.
Welcome.
Good evening, Board of Directors. Our presentation will be short, but as you know, there's been a lot of activity in this area. The forensic investigation report and findings and the Clean Water Services response are a culmination of about 6 months worth of work, a lot of which was done by an outside consultant. So the question is, how did we get here? So on April 8th, 2025, the board did adopt Resolution Order 2025, or 25-5. This was a comprehensive resolution order that addressed a lot, was a directive to Clean Water Services to perform a lot of different activities, including changing policies and procedures. Also within that was a directive to have a fiscal and performance audit of travel and meals by Clean Water Services for the past 3 years to be conducted by, this is an error in a typo here, by an outside consultant. So what Clean Water Services did was contracted with Moronis Analytics to perform a forensic investigation of the travel and training by Clean Water Services to analyze spending trends and to determine whether the transactions comply with GSA per diem, and the county or Clean Water Services policies. We looked back a little bit further than 3 years. We wanted to capture not only 3 prior years, but also the first 8 months of 2025 to see if there was any changes. So Moronis Analytics did the work, and they submitted a draft report on November 7th. Per the contract, Clean Water Services then submitted a management response, and then on December 12th, Moronis Analytics issued the final report. As a result of that final report, on January 8th, 2026, Clean Water Services submitted a management response, and on January 13th, there was an extended work session with the Board of Directors about the report and the response. In the Moronis Analytics report, which was 29 pages and went in detail. It's available to the public. It was attached to this action or this agenda item. There were 9 recommendations, and almost all the recommendations were already addressed by changes to policies and procedures by the district, primarily because of action items that the board required in resolution in order 25-5. If anything wasn't completed in the management response, Clean Water Services committed to updating policies and procedures that needed further work. Kathy Leader here is a point on those changes that need to continue. The bottom line is Clean Water Services learned from the investigation, has improved its policies and procedures, and does commit to continue to improve its policies and procedures regarding travel, training, and food. So what you have before you as the request is to accept the forensic investigation report and affirm Clean Water Services' final management response. We're here for any questions.
Directors, do you have any questions or comments on the staff presentation, the results, or the requested action?
I just think it's worth making sure the public knows that we had a very robust discussion at a work session a couple weeks ago on this topic. I don't intend to repeat all of that, but if someone's watching this and thinking we're not doing our job from an oversight perspective, please refer to the work session.
That is available, the video and all the materials on the county portal, washingtoncountyor.gov/portal. It's really easy to find. Commissioner Treese, Director Treese.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for the work on this. Thank you for bringing this back to us in this formal setting. I also agree with Commissioner Snyder about seeing the full discussion. This has been an exhaustive process, and I'm very comfortable with where we've ended up. And I also want to emphasize that we have adjusted along the way. We started adjusting early on, as you brought out, but it's really important to know that we made adjustments even before we got some of the results in, and that's an important feature as well. So thank you, and we need to move on to the next stage now.
So I see my other two director colleagues are trying to figure out who goes first. So could you guys figure it out?
Happy to figure it out. Yeah, I just want to say thank you to Moronis and that company. They did a great job. This was very complex, and there was a lot of tentacles to this, and they did a great job. Spent more time than was budgeted, so they did their due diligence regardless of how much time it took, and we appreciate certainly their participation and finishing a great job. So thanks to them. Thank you to Clean Water Services for following through on this.
Director Fye.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I'm happy to follow Commissioner Willie. Thank you for your leadership with Clean Water Services, to all of you, to Elizabeth in the back, and to everyone not here. You know, this was an interesting trouble or interesting problem that we discovered. And what I really appreciate is the leadership, not just the staff, but also this board, to say we have to address this. And I think it's safe to say, in a loose words, to say that when we discovered what we discovered, we were all freaked out. And I'm sure that is something that the staff could relate to. But we didn't just freak out and, you know, sort of retreat. We stepped into the problem and we leaned in and we solved it. One of the things you said, Brad, when you were doing your presentation is a lot of these recommendations or a lot of these issues are already addressed. And I'm here to say that that is true, because before the consultant to tell us this is the problem, we were already solving this issue. And we really got ahead of this problem, and and solved it. So my colleagues, I appreciate the leaning in that everybody did and said, we didn't cause this and you staff fix it, but we rolled up our sleeves and fixed it with you. So I'm very proud of the role I played in this in terms of problem solving, not creating the problem, obviously, but that was a joke, by the way. Everybody can laugh. We didn't create this problem, but I think it's been a well-covered issue in the media. But just to say all that, I appreciate your leadership, and we really did solve this problem, and I want the residents and the ratepayers to know that this board didn't say, go hire a consultant and tell us what the problem is. We were solving the problem already. We were really thinking about what do we need to do, what conversations do we need to have, however uncomfortable, and we did that with this. So I say that behind closed doors, and I'm saying it here on the record and publicly, that we really did do our due diligence, and I hope everyone with the ratepayers are proud of how we're solving the clean water services. And as my kids say, making clean water clean. So that's what we're doing. Thank you.
Thank you, all directors. But I really appreciate your comments, Director Fye, for bringing voice to the fact that, yeah, the board freaked out. And we stepped into addressing the problems as we, the board, and our staff leadership and all the employees encountered and learned more about. I really want to underscore our thanks to leadership staff and all employees for your due diligence. We have much better systems now for record keeping, for tracking, for questioning, and we have that because of staff's due diligence. So please extend our thanks to not only leadership, all the management staff, but all employees as well. I also want to thank Director Willie for stepping forward to work with leadership staff on defining a scope of work, and not just defining it, but seeing to it and ensuring that the deliverables met our collective need. So thank you very much. So with that, we have a proposal in front of us to accept the results of the forensic investigation of the Clean Water Services or District training, travel, and meal expenditures as covered over the last 3 years, 8 months of 2025, and affirm the district's response.
I move to accept the results and affirm the response.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please vote by raising your hand or saying aye. Thank you, directors. Any opposed? The motion carries unanimously 5-0. That brings us to the second public comment period for this evening. This is an opportunity for members of our community to address the board on any matter they wish for up to 5 minutes, an individual 30 minutes total for the group. Clerk Moss, who do we have who wishes to do so?
So you are correct, Madam Chair. We have all 6, so we will go 30 minutes unless someone does not use full time. The first 2 we have is Dale Feek and Jeff Four.
Go ahead, Mr. Feek.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Harrington, and Commissioners. Dale Feek. Kevin's not passing out my stuff. I have 3 comments. I would like to honor Sandra Nelson. You're reading. I guess that's okay. I would like you to honor Sandra Nelson, who has been involved and committed to our community. Even though we have often been on opposite sides of the Trump democracy issues, we both like each other. I know that Sandra's religious beliefs are helping her as she receives hospice care. Second comment. I attended the Federal Oversight and Accountability Town Hall meeting January 21st in in Revolutionary Hall in Portland. And I recorded the speeches and made YouTube videos and made active links to that. I sent you an email to that to get to those active links. Oregon Attorney General Dan Brayfield spoke first after being introduced by Cheryl Strayed. Attorneys General from California, Hawaii, Maine, and Minnesota spoke and answered audience questions. I said to listen to those speeches, click on the active links that you got in an email from me. It's very important to be informed and know what our attorney generals in Oregon and those states are doing. I attended on Friday night a candlelight vigil in front of the Forest Grove Library. It was covered by K2. It was broadcast, and an anchor said, it started with people taking time to remember Freddie. The organizers wanted to create a space for people to grieve and express their outrage both with the killing and the federal government immigration crackdown. Ruthie, who's a member of Forest Grove Indivisible, which I'm a member of, said on camera, Alex Preddy died defending another woman as she was being brutalized by ICE. Renee Good died because she was defending her neighborhood against ICE. Over and over, the government is telling us these are enemies. These are enemies. They are domestic terrorists. We're not domestic terrorists. We just care about our neighbors, said Ruthie, Forest Grove Indivisible. And you were there, Commissioner Treese. The broadcaster then said, the 200 people behind this Forest Grove Indivisible event also said that it was meant to build solidarity within the local community, even though it happened in a different state. I went to the Forest Grove School Board meeting tonight, and the superintendent again brought up with the board, and that's the reason I wasn't here, brought up with the board how important safety is, and the people are being terrorized by what's happening. I went to, as you were there, Commissioner Willie, at the Forest Grove School Board, and they had a work session on that. And they talked, again, about the mayor, talked about what they're doing in Forest Grove. I live in Forest Grove. What they're doing to try to reduce the anxiety and the fear that's happening because of what is happening. All right, last thing is I want to read to you what I already sent to you, but maybe people want to listen to this. I got a letter in the editor published in the Oregonian. Harrington brought accountability to clean water. Jamie Goldberg's reporting on the misuse of funds at Washington County's Clean Water Services shows how much it matters the good leaders serve on the Washington County Board of Commissioners, which also runs the Sewer and Stormwater Agency. Audit confirms Pricey Meals lacks record keeping at Sewer Agency. During the last 7 years, I've attended practically all the work sessions and business meetings of the agency's board, Under the leadership of Washington County Board, Catherine Harrington, the board systematically examined the issues created by the former agency executive director, Diane Taniguchi-Dennis, and some of her staff. The board's new policies and procedures make misuse of funds much less likely while making the agency as efficient and cost-effective as possible. When Harrington was running for re-election as board chair in 2022, she said she worked her entire career to increase transparency and accountability and to advance equity and diversity. Harrington followed through with those campaign promises. I personally like the two county commissioners, Nafisa Fye and Pam Treese, who are running to replace Harrington. I will decide which candidate to endorse based upon how well each understands the complexity of current policies and of setting new ones, while working cooperatively with other commissioners and county's administrative staff. Commissioner Fye has 2 more years to serve on the county commission if she loses, because her term doesn't expire until 2028. If Fye wins, Treese will no longer be a commissioner as her term ends this year. A Treese victory means both will continue serving in Washington County. Dale Feek, Chair of Washington County Citizen Action Network.
Thank you, Mr. Feek. On to you, Mr. Four.
Like many other residents, I am asking the county to require background checks and to exclude sex offenders and violent person-to-person criminals at the Cornell Road Transitional Housing Facility in Beaverton. Tonight, I want to focus on community engagement because the way this process has been handled undermines trust and calls into question whether the Good Neighbor Agreement process is truly collaborative. Beyond knowing that a Good Neighbor Agreement kickoff was happening, no clear specifics were provided. No expectations were set for what the meeting would look like, how participation would work, or how community input would be used. Registration was later closed when the event reached a certain number of RSVPs, effectively restricting access, especially for residents in the surrounding neighborhoods who are most directly impacted. The result was a poorly executed meeting that was difficult to hear, confusing to navigate, and so ineffective that many attendees left early because they could not meaningfully participate. The handling of the meeting capacity, registration closure, and communication created both the perception and reality of exclusion at the very first Good Neighbor Agreement meeting. It frames this process as procedural rather than collaborative. There's a growing pattern suggesting that this process is structured to move the community through a predefined path rather than to meaningfully incorporate feedback on core concerns. Indicators include substantive issues like background checks and and exclusions being labeled programmatic and therefore non-influenceable, foundational policies and manuals deferred until key decisions are made, limited meeting capacity paired with promises that concerns can be addressed later, heavy emphasis on checking process boxes instead of achieving outcomes. This does not feel like an authentic effort to partner with the community. It feels like a check-the-box exercise. I also want to address troubling remarks made during the Board of County Commissioners afternoon working session on January 20th, 2026. Chair Harrington, you stated, referring to Oak Hill's representatives, there is an unwillingness to accept that we are grounded in the community need and where we go from there. The response from the other person was, hopefully we can stay on message and eventually it will resonate. Megan Hill, president of Oak Hills HOA, testified previously that the county continues to treat this as a messaging problem rather than a public safety crisis. That remains true. The community does not have a messaging problem. We have a safety problem. Two issues continue to be conflated. First, we are asking for background checks so the operator understands who they are serving and can plan appropriate supports. References to statutes arose only because the community was incorrectly told that the state law prohibits sex offenders from living near parks, schools, or places where children congregate. That statement is false. Second, the community has repeatedly been told that Metro and federal funding prohibits background checks or categorical exclusions. Yet Metro leadership has stated this is not true and no documentation supporting the county's claim has been produced. Chair Harrington, you often say you understand, but it's clear you do not grasp the lived reality behind these concerns. You have not had to tell your children they can no longer ride their bikes freely in their neighborhood. You have not had to tell your children that they cannot play unsupervised in the green space that once drew your family to this community. You have not had to testify in a sexual abuse trial where the person is facing multiple Measure 11 charges and a mandatory 25-year prison sentence for raping your loved one. Continuing to say you understand while being dismissive and focused on moving this project forward is tone deaf. We are not asking you to abandon compassion. We are asking you to balance compassion with responsibility. Jess Larson has stated that engagement is about ensuring the site is well operated in mindfulness and in a good partnership with neighbors, and reference maintaining one-to-one relationships with the HOA. I encourage the board to ask how many times county staff have actually engaged Oak Hills HOA leadership or neighborhood residents in meaningful one-to-one dialogue. We're asking three simple things. 1, require background checks. 2, exclude sex offenders and violent person-to-person criminals. 3, conduct genuine, accessible, transparent engagement. These are all reasonable, they are responsible, and they are necessary to the residents, including the 652 who have signed the petition for safety. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ford. We also have your written testimony. Clerk Moss, who do we have next?
The next two we have is Mary Hokulopoulos and Jill Latre.
Welcome. Please go ahead, Ms. Hokulopoulos.
Good evening, Chair Harrington and Commissioners. I'm Mary Halkiopoulos, a 24-year resident of Washington County. On January 20th, radio host Lars Larson interviewed Secretary of State Tobias Reed about the announced removal of 800,000 inactive voters from the rolls. During the interview, Secretary Reed made several statements which are misleading or outright false. Here are some examples. 1. Responding to why the rolls haven't been properly maintained and why the current purge, he said, quote, routine maintenance and deletion of those records hasn't happened, and, quote, it's a diligent, routine maintenance effort that we have been able to start now that we've got our feet under ourselves. Well, federal laws for routine maintenance have been in place since 1993. Did it really take Oregon 33 years to get our feet under ourselves? Then regarding the inactive records, he said, there's a completely separate list than the active list. False. We have more than 20 copies of the voter rolls from over the past 5 years and can attest with assurance that inactive and active voters are both maintained on the same rolls. The Secretary of State's website, however, reports only the number of active voters, not the inactive voters, so the public has no idea how many inactives there are. Out of the 502,398 records on the January 26 Washington County rolls, 21% are inactive. 2, in the case where a person who's inactive wants to get a ballot, he said, quote, you'd reach out to your county elections official and say, I need to reactivate myself. And quote, you'd need to be in personal contact with the elections official, and they're going to ask you for information to prove that you live where you live or to update your signature. False. A person doesn't have to interact with the elections official at all. All they need to do is go online to update their information up to and including Election Day and self-attest that they are providing accurate information. Even to submit a signature, page 82 of the Vote by Mail Procedure Manual states that it may be submitted by mail using a registration card. 3, when asked if the inactive person has to prove they're eligible to vote or that they live in the state of Oregon or that they're an American citizen, his response was, quote, yes, and those are the questions that the individual county clerks are going to be asking when they hear from someone who's on the inactive list. False. As I mentioned previously, interaction with the county clerk is not necessary. Even if they do interact with the elections office, Oregon is a self-attestation state, so no proof is required. 4, when asked what type of proof of citizenship is required, he responded, quote, it depends on the situation that they're in, and it depends on how they reach out to the county clerk. And, quote, it's going to depend on the situation that they were in that got them on that inactive list. Well, this is misleading. The documents required to prove citizenship are pretty straightforward. They're not dependent on how a person reaches out or why the person is on the inactive list. Most voters have not had to prove citizenship, as Oregon is a self-attestation state. When asked if the voter rolls are under control of, quote, a private and partisan agency known as ERIC, he responded, quote, they are under our control, and, quote, they are part of a centralized registration file, and the individual county clerks interact with the people who are those records. When he was asked point blank, he said ERIC controls none of the records at all. Well, this is misleading. Oregon controls the hosting site of the centralized voter registrations, and county clerks can make records changes, but as we've reported on several occasions, ERIC has unlimited access to all our private information and manages our voter rolls for a fee. State Elections Director Dina Dawson sits on the ERIC board. In fact, David Becker, Executive Director and founder of the nonprofit Center for Election and Research, and the one who spearheaded the development of ERIC, really participated in the Oregon Motor Voter Rules Advisory Committee meetings. Doesn't it make you wonder why, if ERIC has been managing or mismanaging our voter rolls, why Oregon still continues to work with and pay them? Especially after all the lawsuits. The Secretary of State is quick to throw the county clerks under the bus, but not ERIC. Why not? It is clear our voter registrations, elections, and our Secretary of State are untrustworthy. Washington County needs to detach from the state and manage our registrations and elections locally. I've included the link to that on the bottom.
We have it. Thank you very much. Ms. Latreille, go right ahead.
Good evening, Chair Harrington and Commissioners. My name is Jill Latreille, and I've been a resident of Washington County for over 30 years. This evening, I'd like to report on the January 13th Sherwood special election. The 2 charter amendments passed with overwhelming support. 1, enshrining citizens' involvement in land use decisions, over 93%. 2, affirming Sherwood's annexation authority, 82%. Mayor Tim Rosner stated, "Together, these results send a resounding signal. We want local control." Sherwood attorneys stated that when it relates to local procedure and political form of a city, home rule kicks in and preempts state law. Home rule is protected in the Oregon Constitution. During multiple elections, observers have received conflicting or incorrect information from the election office staff, not only with data, but also with reported processes. Even in this comparatively small election, the Sherwood election, I was incorrectly informed by numerous staff about what processes had already occurred or would occur. Observers must ask, what information is reliable? What source can one believe? Again, the ballots, even from the same household, contained the unique identifiers, a QR code unique to every person with voter-specific identifying information. Secretary of State website states the ballots which contain no voter-specific identifying information are tabulated only after they're separated from the return envelopes. The unique identifier on our ballot violates ORS 254.400 Section 1, which states an elector has the right to cast the elector's ballot in a confidential manner. Observers were in the observation room and could not observe all ballot processes. This violates Oregon statute and the Vote by Mail Procedure Manual. ORS 254.482 states the county clerk, if requested, shall permit authorized persons to be at the office of the county clerk to watch the receiving and counting of the ballots. And the Vote by Mail procedure states members of the public may observe all ballot processes. On Election Day, Election Manager Dan Forrester said, most of the workers would leave after processing the ballots received from the drop box that afternoon. They did not expect many ballots to be in the drop box at 8 p.m. The ballots picked up at 8 p.m. would not be signature verified or tabulated that evening, but would be added to the ballots received the next day, received in the mail. It was reported that between 150 and 250 ballots were collected that afternoon. Signature verification was done by several staff and took about 20 minutes. During signature verification, I noted several things. The Blue Crest website used for signature verification read not secure. This has been noted in many elections. Blue Crest summary page reported some signature verification took place on Monday, January 12th. Staff had told me differently. Again, as in every election I have observed, ballots possessing obvious non-matching signatures were accepted without viewing all signatures contained on the file. Checking non-matching signatures is required. The Vote by Mail Procedure Manual states on page 32, if the signature does not match, review all signatures contained in the registration record. Observers have witnessed thousands of non-matching signatures accepted without following the procedures, and many of those signatures are logged. Recall that Oregon's Secretary of State Tobias Reed stated on August 18, 2025, we have the most secure, fairest, most accurate elections in the entire country. He said one reason he could make this claim is that we perform signature verification. Even with meticulous signature verification, if every signature was carefully verified, with vote by mail, there is no way to verify who signed a ballot and no way to verify who filled out a ballot. On election night at 8 p.m., we received the first election results from Mr. Forrester. I am pleased to report that evening, staff sorted, verified the signatures, opened, and tabulated the remaining ballots before the office closed that evening. The signature verification we observed was quick, but the staff appeared to do a better job at following the signature verification procedures. The team completed 217 ballots in less than 40 minutes. We thank Mr. Forrester for finishing the tally that evening and complimented them on their fast work. We asked for the updated results, but we did not receive them as they're not released until Friday, January 16th. We asked that, as Sherwood did, Washington County use home rule to take local control of our elections. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Latre. Clerk Moss, do we have anyone else?
Yes, the last two to round out our half hour is Isla Hoffler and Fern Bissell.
What was the second name?
Fern Bissell.
Thank you. Go ahead, Ms. Hoffler.
My name is Ayla Hoffler. I live in Banks, Oregon. Thank you, Chair Harrington and Commissioners, for letting us have this time to speak with you. This is a little bit too late. I'm here tonight in hopes that I could have pleaded that you removed your decision on the CPO modernization R&O and take it off the consent and give us a hearing, public hearing in the evening for people to have a chance to respond, which never was available to us. It saddens me this day that the end of a great 50-year-old countywide grassroots program has come to an end. The Citizen Participation Program was unique, created by the people for the people, establishing a way for local voices to be heard and responded to by the county commissioners and the Planning Commission. I entered into this program 2 years ago, only to find that it had changed dramatically in structure, purpose, and function from when I did it in the 80s and 90s. No longer were CPOs receiving notice of applications prior to approval from LUT. No longer were all the CPOs in the county functioning anymore. No longer were the issues of a CPO free to be supported separate from the county agenda. There has been a conflict of interest between the county and the CPOs ever since the CPO program left OSU Extension Services. It has taken the county over 4 years to decide what to do with the CPO program. We have waited for the last year to meet in person, review maps, implement CPO districts, communication improvements, and comprehensive agenda in order to work together and share information. This idea of modernization is not embracing what the CPO was planned for. It was meant to address Goal 1 and Goal 5 in the comprehensive plans and originally was Senate Bill 100. The idea of accessibility and opportunity has nothing to do with this. The lottery dollars were intended for the original plan, not what you are spending on now. This is very disappointing. The budget for this department has been spending money on things other than the CPO needs for a long time. Your excuse that it is costing too much now is really a farce. An audit is in order for starts. How much money is spent on social justice by the commissioners? That is the question. Pod villages, rehabilitation centers, mental health, methadone clinics, etc. These projects have nothing to do with land use and transportation issues, which were the priorities of the CPO, as well as addressing significant natural resources that have basically been abandoned. It has become apparent that the local voices regarding these topics are no longer desired by the county, making 4 districts will never address the broad differences of our 14 separate CPOs. Turning the Planning Commission that has canceled over 50% of their meetings this last year is not going to function like the CPO program has. Appointed representatives are not the same as chosen leaders from the community. The guidance of the standing charter is what we are following. It is only now, after 2 administrative hires, have you decided what is going to happen, and the narrative has been dictated by the commissioners. There has been no dialogue or participation that has not been a controlled event. There has been no evening public hearing for for participants to comment and submit alternatives to this R&O. I do not see more inclusive decisions being made with the people. The CCI turning into the Planning Commission, which is advised by the county land use attorney, will always be biased and limited perspective. Your sense of community expectations, service delivery models, and engagement methods that have evolved is nothing more than word salad. The budget constraints are nothing more than an excuse. Please prove it at the next public hearing that needs to take place regarding the CPO program. That should be a standalone program and not a part of LUT. Public participation and engagement regarding county operations needs to be more than a box checked off that it was provided. The people need to bring the agenda, and the county is to respond to them, not the other way around. The county strategic plan is just that, a strategy to define best practices as opposed to the citizens of this county. The entire process should be placed on hold until the next Board of Commissioners is established in January of 2027.
Thank you, Ms. Hoffler.
Thank you, Ms. Hoffler. Go ahead, Mr. Bessel.
Thank you. My name is Fern Bissell. I have lived in Aloha 51 years, and thank you for this opportunity. This is my first time to attend one of these meetings, first time I've seen 4 of you. I met Commissioner Fye at one of her meet and greets in Beaverton a year or 2 ago, and if I can do a little sideline here, I appreciate the ending of that conversation, Commissioner, when you said, would I vote for you? I said, I will pray to vote for the best person. And you said, pray for me that I can be the best person. And I've thought about that response, and I've valued it since that time, so thank you. My comments tonight deal with value systems that we bring to the table in making decisions individually, corporately, and governmentally. Our society seems to be going a lot of different directions with an increasing clash of value systems. I've brought 2 comments. You have a copy of those with you. My first is entitled, I urge the county commissioners to govern righteously in the fear of God. And I've written here, in the Holy Bible, in his last words, sorry, I left off the L on last, King David wrote, the God of Israel said, the Rock of Israel spoke to me, he who rules over men righteously, who rules in the fear of God, is as the light of the morning when sun rises, a morning without clouds, when the tender grass springs out of the earth through sunshine after rain. So I urge you to seek all of your decision-making process in the fear of God first and not in the fear of man or consequences that may come that might violate your integrity. And the point I make here is that people don't see all that happens, but God does see. My second comment, I urge the county commissioners to help build meaningful, purposeful lives and avoid building harmful dependencies. I affirm the Holy Bible's first verse, in the beginning God created the heavens and the earth. It further states that God made man in his image. This is very meaningful to our interactions individually, in family, and within our corporate society. My point here, the Creator God is purposeful, and he made man to live with purpose. All who govern, including this board, should help people build purposeful lives. In application, here's the itch I came to scratch. Last November, Elon Musk said we could wake up one day in a world in which work is optional and money is no longer relevant. I was appalled. And further appalled that the crowd applauded when Musk predicted that work will be optional in about 10 to 20 years thanks to artificial intelligence. Well, the problem is that for most of us, our work is one way to fulfill our God-given purpose nature. As a side not written here, Commissioner Fye shared with me that her position here is one of the most meaningful things of her life. Of course, because God created you to have purpose. Each one has, we exercise our purpose in different ways. And I value that you're spending yours in this way at this time in your life, Commissioner Fye. So I was appalled at Musk's prediction that work will be optional. And so I find it abhorrent that Musk and his friends could revel in a vision of men and women relegated to workless, hence broadly meaningless days. So here's a Washington County example, but there are more applications, surely. There was a proposal in Washington County to accept, a year or two ago, a big bag of money from Portland, as I recall it was Portland, maybe it was Multnomah County, to receive a large number of homeless planted on the grounds of a church in Aloha. I observed to Commissioner Fye, sorry if I misspelled it, Commissioner, in my paper, this was going exactly the wrong way, trapping homeless into further dependency in a location away from services or opportunity for work or training for work. As I recall, I suggested maybe find something close to PCC campus. Might be a good place where some could get training. If anything, such as housing should be placed next to facilities to help people up rather than keep people down. And as time goes on, as AI increasingly captures attention for everything in the media, dollars, demand for energy, huge quantities of energy, all these things, they will surely come to your authority in many instances, sooner or later, and it's probably already happening in many things. So I would say, while the Aloha homeless camp, this example maybe is gone now, Mr. Musk's abhorrent future cast is not going to go away anytime soon. I encourage this board to avoid policies which increase dependency. Please affirm policies which help people to live purposeful lives in your decisions. Thank you.
Thank you. Clerk Moss, anyone else?
No, Madam Chair, that completes the full 30 minutes of public comment for this evening.
Great, thank you. Next, we'll move on to board announcements, so I will start first. Next Tuesday, February 3rd, the Washington County Board of Commissioners will start a work session at 9. We'll pause that and then have our county board meeting at 10 and then reconvene our work session after that. On Thursday, February 5th, the Washington County Board of Commissioners will have our roundtable starting at 9 a.m. On Friday, February 6th, the Clean Water Services Board of Directors will have essentially an all-day work session starting at 9. On Tuesday, February 10th, the Clean Water Services Board of Directors will have a business meeting at 9 a.m. And then immediately following that, we will have a Clean Water Services Board of Directors work session estimated at about 11:15. On Tuesday, February 17th, the Board of Commissioners work session will start at 9 a.m. We'll pause that for a Board of Commissioners business meeting at 10 and then reconvene in work session after that. On Tuesday, February 24th, the Board of Commissioners will have a work session starting at 2 p.m. We will end that no later than 5 p.m. so that we have a dinner break before we have the evening Clean Water Services Board of Directors meeting starting at 5:30 p.m., followed by the Washington County Board business meeting at 6:30 that evening. And that's it for the month of February. And now I ask for if there are any other board announcements, and I know that Commissioner Treese has one.
Thank you, Chair. I wanted to make this statement, and Commissioner Fye, this is directed toward you and what you're currently experiencing.
In support.
Yes, and as Commissioner Fye's board colleagues, we stand together in opposing the racism that she is currently experiencing. We know the intensity increased following the President's hateful remarks about Somalis and has been escalated further by online comments in our local media, our social media, and community comments that follow. It is important to us that we publicly state that we oppose racism, xenophobia, and hate speech directed at anyone in our community. And as Commissioner Fai's colleagues, in the important work of this county, we condemn the racism and the hatred that's being directed at her. We urge civility and respect for one another in these challenging times. We stand with you.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner Trace. I appreciate that. I wanted to take this moment to actually talk to you, Fern, and say, good to see you. Thank you. Yeah, yes, and welcome back. And I'm very glad you came. You know, this is civic engagement at its finest. So to have you here say this is your first time, I'm very honored to have you here, and thank you. I appreciate what you said, and I take it to heart what you said. So thank you for meeting with me 2 years ago, joining me. And with that, I'll pivot it to make a couple announcements since I have many of you here. This Saturday, I'm doing a town hall, so join. The information is online. It's going to be about Flock, so if you want to learn AI-powered surveillance cameras, join me. And more importantly, or more sooner, I should say, this Friday I'm doing my monthly constituent coffee. So please join me. It's going to be at the Dudstock Coffee because I'm still a commissioner for District 1, and we're going to continue doing our constituent coffees in District 1 in the meantime, and I invite you all to join me. It's a lovely conversation. I think it was a constituent coffee, if I'm not mistaken, Fern, where we had this conversation, and then Brenda Bartlett was staffing me, and now we have a new staff, and if you join us this Friday, you'll get to meet them. Thank you.
Are there any other board announcements for this evening? Seeing none, I would like to ask for a motion to adjourn tonight's meeting. Do we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor, please vote by raising your hand or saying aye. Thank you, commissioners. Any opposed? The motion carries unanimously, 5-0. We're hereby adjourned. Good night.